This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome to the latest edition of the Check the Report podcast. I am Vito Churko. And on this edition of the Check the Report podcast, Doc and I speak with both Roe Dayzon, the director of photography for the film Halt, which is set to debut Saturday in Dearborn. And also we speak with Adam Weinstein, the CEO of ThriveFantasy, a daily fantasy sports app that you need to check out. Before we get to Adam, here is our conversation with Roe Dayzon. And joining me on this edition of Check the Report is Roe Dayzon, the director of photography for the Halt film, Michigan-based film, which is set to debut on Saturday in Dearborn. Roe, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Making it.
Well, good. And you're making it big. You're living large now with this film. So I want to ask you first and foremost, as the director of photography, what did your role on this film exactly entail?
Well, my role is to basically make it look good. At the end of the day, it's all about the vision and telling the story on a visual point and being able to get people enticed by how it's shot, you know. So that's basically what my job is just making sure everything looks good and make sure that we tell the story properly visually.
And your wife, Jazar Riches, she wrote and directed the film. How long did it take for her to actually put the script together for this film?
Well, I came to her with the idea. I'm not much of a script writer myself, but I have a few ideas. I came to her with the idea and I said, hey, I want to do this movie about, this police situation that's going on in this city. She's like, well, you got to make it a little deeper than that. So I said, okay. What can you do with it? So it took her about about 2 months, 3 months. She watched a bunch of movies, did a bunch of research on it and everything like that. And then she dove right in and that's how it came to be.
Obviously, you know what the movie is about, but I got to tell everybody else about what the movie entails. And it's about a young African-American married couple being pulled over by a Caucasian male police officer and his rookie African-American partner for a crime that the couple did not commit. They just thought they were pulled over simply for a broken taillight. Well, that wasn't the case, and it leads to the mainstream discussion of racial profiling in today's day and age. And it's widely evident, hugely present. And for you, as an African-American yourself, have you dealt with this personally? And how big of an issue do you see this as in America today? Racial profiling, that is.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it makes it hard for African-Americans to be themselves. I'm an African-American with long hair. I've always felt some kind of way about myself. What I mean by that is I always felt like I couldn't walk into a business meeting or I couldn't walk into certain environments because I have long hair. But as I got into the process of making this film and my son was involved, he was 6 or 7 at the time. And I learned how through this process that everybody has problems. Everybody has insecurities. Everybody has issues. And I think that's the thing that I want to touch on the most with this film is that, yeah, we had a white cop pull over a black couple for a situation, but they don't know exactly where he came from. And what I mean by that is they don't know the situations he's gone through in his life to get where he is in this current time, in this current position of him pulling them over and why he feels a certain way about African Americans and why do we need to change the dialogue and how can we change the dialogue? And that's where we lack as a society is knowing that everybody has issues and we're not the only ones. So, like I said, me having long hair and everything like that, it made me insecure about my personal. But now, shoot, I walk in a meeting proud and standing firm about who I am. And that's what I learned through this experience. Like I said, my son is in the movie and he goes through a situation in the film. And I asked him, what did you think about that? Like, what did you think about the white cop shooting the black guy? And he said, well, the issue he felt was the black guy did something wrong because he didn't cooperate. And the only thing was he just said, I don't understand why I got to give you my license and registration for this situation. And this happens in the beginning of the film. You'll see it, and it's a big message, and I believe that people will take something from it.
So how can we get rid of racial profiling? How can we resolve police brutality? What are the keys to accomplishing that?
I think our artist, Joyner Lucas, did it the best. Sitting down and actually bringing our people together, just like they used to do war back in the day. They used to do war where you couldn't go to war until the two generals met up on the battlefield and had a discussion. And then they went to war. And if they came to the conclusion that they couldn't come to a conclusion, then they went to war. So that was where we're at now, is that we have to learn to sit down and bring our leaders together and have a piece of constructive dialogue. And I think that's where we lack a lot of times, is that people go head first in and say Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, and all these things. And we don't sit down and actually let the people that we respect or people of power stand those positions and speak for those brackets.
Yeah, and let's sit at the table together. Even if we have different political mindsets and viewpoints, let's sit together and have productive dialogue, right? I mean, how needed is that in today's day and age when you see all this divisiveness, even stemming from the president, from the White House, and people on different sides of the political aisle not seeing eye to eye and not being willing to have productive and calm and peaceful dialogue. So how important is it to have that and more of that in today's day and age?
I mean, it's super important. I mean, we're all in this day and age, I think we're at a level now where society has changed tremendously, especially in the hip hop industry and everything like that, where these young boys are wearing went from the baggy pants to now the tight pants and color hair, and everybody looks just so unique and so different now. Is that it's a good thing that we're going that way. But at the end of the day, I think we need to figure out how to take the color of the skin out of the ordeal. And once that happens, I think it's going to really make a big difference. And I think we just need to not be afraid to talk about it. One of the lead characters in the film, Big Bob Landendorf, he has a car dealership. He's known for being the guy on the commercial that say, "I'm Big Bob." So he's in the movie and he plays the lead character, and he says a lot of things in this movie that's going to make people cringe and uncomfortable. And I think a lot of times it needs to be heard, though. It needs to be said, or we need to know that it is being said in order to do something about it. So I think it's very important.
Now, John Macaroon here, Vito's producer. I'm curious, when there is dialogue regarding the relationship between police and the African-American community, the other side typically says, well, if we want to make it an issue not about race, maybe we need to also take a step back and look at the issue of the military state that we're becoming and really look at it and say, by and large, the majority of police do a wonderful job. They protect communities and they handle their business. But when things do go astray, maybe there is a little bit too much fear, or there is a little bit too much reliant on weapons to handle situations that could be de-escalated instead of escalated. How do you handle the other side that typically says, well, it's not a race issue, it's really an issue of better police overall, because by and large, the vast majority of police are really out there to protect and serve?
I think it all boils down to training. I think we don't spend enough if we're going to spend these tax dollars, let's spend it on training police properly. I think, and this is just me throwing to the wind, but I think every police officer should have some sort of martial arts or self-defense. I mean, you go over to China and you go over to Japan, and these police officers, everyone knows some sort of martial arts. If you ever watch a Japanese movie, it'd be an ex-cop. He's a great martial artist. So we miss that part where I know people personally, and there's a film called Catfish that we're actually premiering. It's a martial arts film with some stunt doubles I know here, and it's a black guy and a white girl, and they're in the film, and they know martial arts. So that's why I speak on that. But I think we lack that. That, I think, keeps down on fear. When you can feel like you can defend yourself without a weapon, when you don't feel like you necessarily need to have a gun to defend yourself from an individual, it's just one big guy. You know, he may be getting rowdy or whatever, but you feel like you got to pull your gun out because you can't take a one-on-one, or you can't. You see what I'm saying? I've seen videos where there's 15 cops on one guy, and he's throwing them around like they're nothing. You know, and I can't believe when I see these things. You telling me there's so lack of training where they can't take down one individual? You know, so it's mind-blowing that we don't train up our cops enough in order to defend themselves without weapons.
And Roe, perfect preparation prevents poor performance, too, by cops and by individuals of any walk of life in any industry. So I think you really need these cops to be more properly trained and to be able to deal with situations that escalate to severe levels. And now Halt is set to premiere Saturday in Dearborn. What would you like to accomplish through that premiere this Saturday?
I just want people to come out and see the film. I want them to see a different side of Detroit. I know when it comes to Detroit film, especially in my neck of the woods, which is Southwest Detroit, there's a lot of negative stereotypes that we embrace. You know, guns, money, and drugs, and everything like that. And that's not really the focal point of what I'm trying to do here in the city. I'm trying to show that Detroit is a place to make film, and we don't always have to focus on the negativity of Detroit in order to make a film. Hollywood, when they do a film in California, it's not about California. It's just a film that's being made in California. We don't really, in the film, we don't base it around Detroit. We don't base it around the city scopes or anything of that nature. You really can't even tell what city we filmed in from the way the movie is done. And we did that on purpose because we want people to see that it's not just Detroit cops, it's not just Chicago cops, it's a generic brand of cops. It's everywhere that's dealing with this exact situation. So I think people can take away a message and take away information and just take away a desire to be better.
So you and Jazar, what are you guys wearing on Saturday? Because obviously, you know, that's very important what you're wearing, too, for a premiere. Any idea, at least? I know it's a weird question, but you know how these people on the red carpet are. You know, so if I was on the red carpet asking you a question, so I would think of that. Yeah,
well, the name of my company is called Coattail.
Uh-huh.
And so she wants to wear coattail jackets to our first premiere. This is our first premiere for our company. So she wants to wear coattail jackets. I think it's going to be definitely different, something different I don't regularly do. But, you know, if you know anything about women, that's what they say, go.
Well, yeah, they're demanding. You got to listen. You got to bow down to them and do what they say, huh?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's a way of doing business when you're married. And I'm not married. I've got a lot of learning when it comes to that before I get married. I'll just say that. And I'll leave you with this. You already kind of said it, but if there's one thing you want to leave people with through this film, through Halt, what is that? What is that message?
If I could leave people with one thing, I would tell them to keep creating, keep doing something. There's different things out here to do in the city. I remember being 20 years old, growing up in the hood and everything like that, not knowing that there was other things to do. I thought that the only jobs out here were playing basketball, going to college, working at McDonald's, or selling drugs. And that's all I knew. And I think as the youth, we don't know that there's opportunities out here to do different things like make movies, do commercials, be an artist, be a painter. We don't see those things up front. So I think I've invited a lot of people from all different walks of life to come out and see this project. And I got people from schools and everything like that, and they're excited because this is their first time coming to a premiere. So I want people to walk away with information and understanding that there's something different out here, and we can do big things in this city.
Well, Roe, best of luck to you and Jazar on Saturday night. Have a ton of fun. And what's the best way of following you guys, by the way, and finding out more info about the film?
You can follow me on Instagram at Roe Dayzon DP, or you can go to www.haltthemotionpicture.com, and you can buy tickets there. You can see the trailer there, and any information that you may desire. We're on Eventbrite, and that's where you can buy digital tickets, or you can get tickets from us. You can call my secretary at 734-905-0262. Yes. So you can call her at that number, and she can get you tickets.
HaltTheMotionPicture.com. Check it out, guys. Big thanks to you, Ro, for all the time on this edition of Check the Report, and have a great night on Saturday night.
All right. Thank you.
And that was Roe Dayzon. Thanks to him for all of his time on this edition of the Check the Report podcast. And now let's truck right along to our chat with Adam Weinstein, the CEO of ThriveFantasy.
On the phone with us right now is Adam Weinstein. He is the CEO of ThriveFantasy. Adam, welcome to the Detroit Sports Podcast. How are you?
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Now, we have you here to talk about ThriveFantasy, a daily betting application. How did you come up with ThriveFantasy, and tell our listeners about the concept?
Sure. So before I even start, congrats on the first win last Sunday, beating the Pats. A big win, easy one for you guys. So getting that first win of the season is always the toughest. But definitely wanted to talk to you guys about Thrive Fantasy. So I've been in the fantasy sports and just the sports industry for a long time now. I was one of the first adopters on FanDuel and DraftKings back in 2012, 2013. And being an avid sports fan, I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to win a ton of money playing on this site. So I deposited a couple $1,000, and lo and behold, I never came close to winning any money. So I was like, this doesn't really make any sense. I know every player on every team, but I'm getting absolutely annihilated. So I wanted to make something a lot easier for the more engaged and casual fan, the one who knows a lot about sports but doesn't have a chance against these guys who have all these statistical-based models and algorithms on these bigger sites. So we came up with Thrive Fantasy. It's a new daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. So it's a new game flow, new concept, and we launched 6 months ago, and it's a lot of fun, very easy, and people seem to really enjoy it.
So Adam, Vito Churko here, and I want to ask you, so how does this app, Thrive Fantasy, how does it stick out and stand out in a crowded arena of daily fantasy sports apps?
Sure. So most, again, the bigger guys are doing a situation or a game concept where you draft one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, tight end, all that good stuff. What we do is we give you a list of 20 binary propositions for anyone who doesn't know what a player prop is or a prop bet. For instance, it'll be Matthew Stafford over under 280 passing yards or Kerryon Johnson over under 75 rushing yards. So very easy. Just one stat. Are they going to go over or under that certain statistical based prop? And then it's really easy. So it's completely revolutionary in the sense that no one's ever really come up with this idea in the past. For daily fantasy sports. So we really stand out for the sheer fact that it's not been seen before.
So how do you determine those prop bets and what they will be?
That's a great question. Yes. So most prop bet lines in Vegas come out a couple hours prior to a game. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability to do that a couple hours prior. We obviously create the contest days in advance of any given Sunday, or for baseball, we do it in the morning. But we have a pretty nice algorithm that computes and permutates a lot of these stats and then spits it out. But we sometimes don't have necessarily the exact line that Vegas has. And if some users want to take advantage of a quote unquote bad line, by all means.
On with us, Adam Weinstein from Thrive Fantasy, daily fantasy games, prop bets. Sounds like a very fun time. Now, you said you started with the early concept of FanDuel. What was that like when you had? Did you sense that it would get that big in terms of daily games? Because fantasy football at the time was a massive thing. Half the country was playing it. What made daily games so intriguing?
Yeah, that's a great question. What's funny is actually on our team, my childhood friend was one of the head of marketing at DraftKings for a little over 3 years. So he's on our team now, but he talked to their CEO. He has a longstanding relationship with him, and he can attest to the fact that no one thought daily fantasy sports was going to blow up to be what it is today. It was really something really small at that time, but full transparency, I had no idea it was going to get this big, but I'm glad it did because it makes it more intriguing on a Sunday. If it's week 5, week 6 in your season long and your team is 0-5 or 1-4, you're pretty much giving up on the season. Daily Fantasy Sports obviously gives you the ability to draft a different lineup every weekend or for baseball every day. So it keeps you engaged, it keeps you motivated, and there's no really other industry where you can put in $20 or $50 and win 10x, 100x, 1000x your return on investment.
So gambling is being legalized in so many places and states now throughout the nation. How does that affect you and Thrive Fantasy?
Sure. So what's really nice is we launched in the beginning of April for opening day for baseball, and then the later days for NBA. And a month later, PASPA gets overturned, sports betting becomes legal. So it's really something that's beneficial to us, we believe. If anyone watches SportsCenter or all these different shows now, they're talking about prop bets, over-unders, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a show. So prop bets are coming to the forefront. They're here to stay. People seem to really enjoy them. It's not just, hey, I like the Lions to beat so-and-so team. It's, hey, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go for over 20 completions, or Todd Gurley's going to have 150 rushing and receiving yards. So it really makes it a different type of sweat, a different type of experience. And we're really bringing that to the masses. And we have some pretty big contests every Sunday. So definitely everybody who's listening, come check us out. A lot of fun.
Now you can go if you want to play. You can even start off playing for free by going to ThriveFantasy.com. And I think one aspect that a lot of people like with these games is the ability to compete against others. Like on your site, ThriveFantasy.com, you can choose a contest, pick your side of the props, and you can rack up points when you pick the correct side. And I think the instant gratification of competing against others definitely makes a site like yours, ThriveFantasy.com, and the application games definitely really fun.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, we're ThriveFantasy.com, as you alluded to, on web. We are on iOS and Android, just Thrive Fantasy. It's one word. But yeah, it's a lot of fun for Thursday night football. We actually have a $25 entry fee with $1,500 guaranteed with $500 to first. So again, we're getting ramped up. We're making bigger prize pools, bigger entry fees, getting more users every day, every hour. So definitely check us out. We'll actually match your first deposit instantly up to $10. And we have contests ranging from a couple dollars all the way up to several hundred. So definitely can make it something that is within your wheelhouse.
Here's a bigger picture question for you. What's the 5-year plan for Thrive Fantasy?
Sure. So right now we're doing 3 sports. We're doing NBA, MLB, and NFL, obviously. What we really want to get into is MMA, PGA, and then ultimately esports. With prop bets, the opportunities are limitless. Like for PGA, we'll do Rory McIlroy over under pars or Tiger over under birdies. So that's a completely different sweat, as I alluded to prior. But in terms of esports, once esports is really getting regulated and all that, we can do like over under ninja kills in Fortnite or some Call of Duty props or whatever, League of Legends. So we think that we can really ramp this thing up and make this something that people get really excited about. In terms of the other DFS sites, I like to refer to that as fantasy fatigue, right? Like 4 years ago, people loved creating these NBA or MLB lineups every day. They'd spend a couple hours doing research. But now it's boring. It's the same concept every day. Pick a pitcher, pick a catcher, pick a first baseman. You need to research every player on every team. On our site, you'll never see the same contest twice. We might ask you about Mike Trout total over under hits today, and then tomorrow over under half an RBI, or Matt Stafford passing yards today, and then next week Matt Stafford total touchdowns and interceptions. So completely different experience every week, and we think that people are really enjoying it, and we can make something that everybody seems to want to move forward with.
And one aspect of an application that's really important is the ability to be user-friendly, especially if you're attracting older individuals maybe trying this for the first time. And when I went and tried it, very easy, very simple to use, very user-friendly, and I think that's really important if you're going to launch an application, especially in a gaming sense.
Yeah, so a lot of people who've downloaded our app, they initially hit us up on Twitter saying this is super slick, super easy to use, and as you alluded to, very user-friendly. So we appreciate that. I spent a ton of hours, a lot of effort, a lot of money on creating a situation where the first impression means a lot, and it seemed to pay off because people enjoy the user-friendly and user experience a lot on our site.
So where can we find the app?
Yeah, so again, ThriveFantasy, one word. Just search us in the App Store, in the Play Store, or ThriveFantasy.com. Definitely reach out to us via social. We're mostly engaged on Twitter at ThriveFantasy. Hit us up, tell us what you like, what you don't like, how we can iterate on the product to make the best user experience. Because we're only launched 6 months ago, so the last thing we want to do is not listen to our customer base, our early adopters.
Thank you so much. We've had the pleasure of talking to Adam Weinstein from Thrive Fantasy. Again, check out their application. There's a game tonight. If you can handle your business, go to ThriveFantasy.com. And thank you so much, Adam, for telling us about it. I look forward to playing in some games.
I appreciate it, guys.
Keep thriving, man.
Let's do it.
Interesting stuff there, Vito. Did you ever get into FanDuel, daily fantasy stuff, things like that, online gaming or anything like that with prop bets or things like that?
I can't afford it.
Can't afford it.
Simple as that. But it's intriguing. There's more and more of it. And hey, look at this. A new outlet for it, new app, Thrive Fantasy. Check it out in your app store. You can download it for free, easily usable, accessible. So download it. Have some fun with it too.
And so, Vito, this will bring to a close this edition of Check the Report.
And thanks to our guest, Adam Weinstein, and also Roe Dayzon of the film Halt, which is premiering this Saturday in Dearborn.
You've just listened to Check the Report on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.